crowns before the Lamb of God and sing. All the saints. All the saints and angels, they bow before your throne. All the elders cast their crowns before the Lamb of God and sing. We sing, you are worthy of it all. You are worthy of it all. For from you are all things, and to you are all things. You deserve the glory. All the saints and angels, they bow before your throne. All the others cast their crowns before the Lamb of God and sing, you are worthy of it all, Jesus. You are worthy of it all. For from you are all things, and to you are all things. You deserve the glory. Oh, you are worthy of it all, Jesus. You are worthy of it all. For from you are all things, and to you are all things. You deserve the glory. Day and night, night and day, let incense arise. Day and night, night and day, let incense arise. Day and night, night and day, let incense arise. Day and night, night and day, let incense arise. Day and night, night and day, let incense arise. Day and night, night and day, let incense arise. Day and night, night and day, let incense arise. Day and night, night and day, let incense arise. Let it rise. Day and night, night and day, let incense arise. Day and night, night and day, let incense arise. Day and night, night and day, let incense arise. Day and night, night and day, worthy of it all. deserve it all. For from you are all things, and to you are all things. You deserve the glory. All the glory is yours. All the glory is yours. Oh, you deserve it all, Lamb that was slain. Oh, you deserve it all. You were silent before your executioners, so you deserve it all. Oh, you deserve it all. Yeshua, you deserve it all. You deserve it all. We love you. Let my heart want for nothing but you, just you. Let my heart want for nothing but you, just you. The riches of this world, they never satisfy. Let my heart want for only you. You're my center in the chaos. You're my compass when the road is long. You're my portion, you never failing. For me, only Jesus. Let my heart want for nothing but you, just you. Let my heart want for nothing but you, just you. The riches of this world, they never satisfy. Let my heart want for only you. You're my center, should I wander. You're my future, you redeem my past every moment and then forever. For me, only Jesus. For me, only Jesus. Let my heart want for nothing but you, just you. Let my heart want for nothing but you, just you. The riches of of this world could never satisfy. Let my heart want for only you. Let my heart want for nothing but you, just you. Let my heart want for nothing but you, just you. The riches of this world, they never satisfy. Let my heart want for only you. Let my heart want for only you. May I burn for only you. May I burn for only you. Burn for only you. Burn for only you. For me, there's only Jesus. For me. There's none but Jesus. For me, it's only Jesus. For me, none but Jesus. Let my heart want for nothing but you, just you. Let my heart want for nothing but you, just you. The riches of this world, they'll never satisfy. Let my heart want for only you. Let my heart want for only you. Let my heart want for only you. Burn for only you. All across this room, set us on fire. And if we don't burn, Lord, fill us again. All across this room, fill us with your fire. Heaven is trembling in all of your wonders. The kings and their kingdoms are standing amazed. Heaven is trembling in all of your wonders. The kings and their kingdoms are standing amazed. glorious, you're matchless in every way, wonderful, you're beautiful, you're glorious, you're matchless in every way, wonderful, you're beautiful, you are glorious, you're matchless in every way, wonderful, you're beautiful, you're glorious, you're matchless in every way. You are matchless. You are matchless. No wonder they call you holy. No wonder they call you worthy. No wonder they call you beautiful. You are beautiful. No wonder they call you holy. No wonder they call you worthy. No wonder they call you beautiful. You are beautiful, wonderful, beautiful, you're glorious, you're matchless in every way, wonderful, you're beautiful, you are glorious, you're matchless in every way, wonderful, beautiful, glorious, you're matchless, you're matchless, you're matchless. You are matchless. Heaven is trembling in all of your wonders. The kings and their kingdoms are standing amazed. Here in your presence, I am undone. Here in your presence, heaven and earth become one. Here in your presence, all things are new. Here in your presence, everything bows before you. There's a light in this place. There's a light in this place. There's a light in this place. And the heavens are open. There's a light in this place. There's a light in this place. There's a ladder in this place. The heavens are open. Son of Man is in this place. The Son of Man is in this place. The Son of Man is in this place. And our hearts, they're open. The Son of Man is in this place, yes, yes. The Son of Man is in this place. The Son of Man is in this place, and our hearts they're open. Our hearts they're open. Open our eyes to see you. Open our ears to hear our Father. I wanna know you more. I wanna know you more. I surrender. I surrender. I wanna know you more. I wanna know you more. Restoring our souls.
So yesterday, I did something that I do often. I had the opportunity to lay hands on someone and pray for them who's going through a very difficult time. He's a homeless individual, and there were other people, religious people in the room, and you could feel the eyes. You know what I mean? You could feel the eyes. Why is he touching that person? Why is he giving that person attention? The Father right now is calling all sorts of different people with different backgrounds and different walks of life to be a part of what he's doing. And they are people that we have not expected he could use, he could work with. He's going to surprise us. Just like Jesus surprised the first century followers of God by reaching out to and touching people that no one else would touch. And that is where we pick up today in Mark chapter 1, verse 40. Mark chapter 1, verse 40. A man with leprosy came and knelt in front of Jesus, begging to be healed. "If you are willing, you can heal me and make me clean," he said. Moved with compassion, Jesus reached out and touched him. "I am willing," he said. "Be healed." Instantly, the leprosy disappeared and the man was healed. Then Jesus sent him on his way with a stern warning. "Don't tell anyone about this. Instead, go to the priest and let him examine you. Take along the offering required in the law of Moses for those who have been healed of leprosy. This will be a public testimony that you have been cleansed." But the man went and spread the word, proclaiming to everyone what had happened. As a result, large crowds soon surrounded Jesus, and he couldn't publicly enter a town anywhere. He had to stay out in the secluded places, but people from everywhere kept coming to him. A man with leprosy came to Jesus and knelt in front of him, begging to be healed. Leprosy is still in existence today, mostly in other countries. It's most prominent in India and other third world countries, but it is, although rare, still in existence in the United States. This disease there's actually still leper colonies in the world where lepers live separately by themselves so that they will not pass this illness, this disease to others. It actually is not as contagious as we might think. Only about 95% of the contact people have with leprosy, is it contracted, and only 5% of the time. Sorry. So this man came to Jesus out of a leper colony, and he was someone who was not used to being around people. In fact, he wasn't even able to live with his family. And what this man did, I don't think we fully have a depth of understanding about how much faith it would have taken to do what he did. Because Jesus had healed people, and this leper came to him because he knew that Jesus could heal people. He had seen that happen. But what had never happened is that a man with leprosy had never been healed. This man was pushing the limits. He was pushing the limits of faith beyond anything that had been seen to that point. He knelt in honor and in worship, and he begged Jesus in faith, and he says, if you are willing, you can heal me. He didn't say, you might be able to heal me. He said, all that's needed is your willingness, Jesus. I know you can. It was faith that pushed the limits. And in this season, in every season, God is always pushing us to push beyond the limits of what he has even done. If you look through the story of Scripture, the story of the Bible, the history of God, you will see story after example of people who push the limits. It is a record of individuals who push the limits beyond what had been done before. There's no record of God saying, I want you to make a sacrifice on an altar to me. But men and women, when they were moved by God with thankfulness, they did this. There was never a record of Joshua previously or anyone else coming and saying, sun, stand still. And God regarded the voice of a man. There was no record of that happening, but Joshua did it. Things happen when we push beyond the limits of what we know, because that's what faith is. When we push beyond what we've seen, that's what faith is. When we do something that's crazy, when we say something that no one else has said before. How many of you have had an encounter, God has prompted you in the moment to do something that you've never done before? This is what this leper was compelled to do. There was no cure for leprosy at this time. There is today, but there wasn't at this time. He had no other hope. He had no other choice. And it says in verse 41, moved with compassion, Jesus reached out and touched him. I am willing, he said, be healed. Instantly, the leprosy disappeared. Oh, I love that. And the man was healed. There are modern day treatments that take 6 to 12 months to heal leprosy through a myriad of different drugs, antibiotics. 6 to 12 months. Jesus did it instantly. Amen. I've heard people say, I'm not about the gifts of the Spirit. I'm just about loving people. I've heard people say that to me. I'm all about just this love and righteousness, but I'm not about the gifts of the Spirit. Is healing a gift of the Spirit? It says Jesus right here, moved with compassion. Healing people is an expression of love. Right. It falls under the umbrella of an expression of God's love. Right. If God is love and Jesus is God, let's look at what Jesus did day in and day out. He healed people. He cast out demons. He raised the dead. He preached the gospel, the good news, wherever he went. In Matthew 14, verse 14, it says, and when Jesus went out, he saw a great multitude, and he was moved with compassion for them, and did what? Healed their sick. It says he reached out and touched him. He touched him. I would bet money that people who were closest to the situation, people who were the closest to this leper, assumed that he would stay the way that he was forever. They were convinced, because they were close to him, close to the situation, that he would remain the way that he was. And then a man who was closer to this leper than ever came and he healed him. And it says he reached out and he touched him. And there's no accident in terms of how Jesus heals people. Do you think it's an accident that he actually touched him in this particular case? No. Whereas previously, in other instances, he didn't touch the people. This man was untouchable. He was not allowed to be touched. His family, his friends were convinced he would stay that way. A few years ago, I met a man, starting to get to know an individual, and we were sitting, having a meal together, and he told me that his mother, who wasn't there, had cancer and thousands of tumors in her body. And it was Thanksgiving time, and he said the doctors don't give her until maybe till Christmas, one more month to live. This man, because he had, I believe, lived with his mother that way for so long, was convinced she would stay that way. And I said, well, let's pray for her. And so I prayed for her. God gave her 3 more years.
Praise God. Amen.
And I reminded him when I saw him some months later, even maybe the next year, I said, do you remember we prayed for your mom? She's now actually able to come and gather with the church. She's well enough to do that. Do you remember when we prayed for her? And he goes, oh, that's right.
Wow.
Sometimes we miss what God is doing afterward and beforehand because we're too close to the situation. And Jesus is inviting us to come up where he sits and where we sit in heavenly places, and to be reminded that we get to bring heaven to earth in a spirit-filled, case-by-case basis. And when we step out in faith, don't doubt for a minute that you will have doubts in that minute. I fear that fear encounters us so that we won't encounter others. In those moments where God says, this is an opportunity to push beyond where you've ever been. And if you feel the fear and you feel the doubt, most likely when you act in faith, something will change. When I do deliverances for people, if I still feel fear in the room, fear is like my, I use it as one of many guideposts or meters. Barometer. If I still feel fear in the room on the individual, the demons are still there. And we have additional work to do. Unless you feel joy in the presence of God in a room, someone has not gotten free. But when the Holy Spirit breaks out of your step of faith, when he breaks through it, things shift and change, and the earth is changed because you brought the change from heaven. And this is what Jesus did in this situation. He did what nobody else was willing to do. He did what nobody else wanted to do or even had eyes to do.
Right.
Jesus didn't just touch him, he declared something. He didn't pray anything. Not that there's anything wrong with praying for healing. But Jesus, more often than not, he declared healing.
Yeah. Right.
He said, be healed.
Right.
And this would have been a reversal of what had been accurately declared over this man by the priests, according to Levitical law in Leviticus 13 and 14, which we'll look at in a minute. The priests were to proclaim any lepers unclean and then continue to watch them to see if they got better. And this was God's way of preventing the spread of disease. You know, just like if someone gets COVID, they need to, according to the CDC and other organizations, thank you, for lack of a better word, isolate themselves for a bit. Right. So we get these ideas, I believe, from the way God has done things always. Amen. So this is a practical thing. He says if someone has leprosy, they should go and be examined by the priest. And if they're not, then the priest should re-examine them, I think it's like every 7 days, and see if they're getting better. And if there's certain symptoms, and that means the leprosy has gone deep into their nerves and is causing more issues and probably more contagious, I think would be the implication there. And therefore, they should be taken outside the camp so that they don't spread that, okay? So that had undoubtedly been declared over this man, you are unclean, by a priest. But Jesus comes, the high priest, and he touches him and he says, be healed.
Yep.
Verse 42, it says, instantly the leprosy disappeared. And I love I'm reading from the New Living Translation. I was going to do a different one this morning, but I've read this and I really appreciate that it says disappeared, because leprosy is a visible disease. You can see it on the skin. If you've looked at photos of it, it has a physical manifestation. It's not a hidden thing. Right. So it says that, like, people, when Jesus said, be healed, literally people watched with their eyes and saw as the leprosy, as his skin cleared up right there before everyone.
Amen.
Then Jesus sent him on his way with a stern warning. Don't tell anyone about this. Instead, go to the priest and let him examine you. Take along the offering required in the law of Moses for those who have been healed of leprosy. This will be a public testimony that you have been cleansed. I'm going to read real briefly here from Leviticus chapter 13. Verse 1, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, if anyone has a swelling or a rash or discolored skin that might develop into a serious skin disease, that person must be brought to Aaron the priest or to one of his sons. The priest will examine the affected area of the skin. If the hair in the affected area has turned white and the problem appears more than skin deep, it is a serious skin disease, and the priest who examines it must pronounce the person ceremonially unclean. But if the affected area of the skin is only a white discoloration and does not appear to be more than skin deep, and if the hair on the spot has not turned white, the priest will quarantine the person for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest will make another examination. If he finds the affected area has not changed and the problem is not spread on the skin, the priest will quarantine the person for 7 more days. On the 7th day, the priest will make another examination. If he finds the affected area has faded and is not spread, the priest will pronounce the person ceremonial clean. It was only a rash. The person's clothing must be washed, and the person will be ceremonial clean. But if the rash continues to spread after the person has been examined by the priest and has been pronounced clean, the infected person must return to be examined again. If the priest finds that the rash has spread, he must pronounce the person ceremonially unclean, for it is indeed a skin disease. So you see the priest almost having somewhat of a role of a doctor here, in this culture. And then it continues on from there. But if you jump over to just the next chapter, Leviticus chapter 14, verse 1, and the Lord said to Moses the following, and so these are the instructions, that's the instructions for declaring someone unclean, okay? These are the instructions for ceremonial purification. And the Lord said to Moses, the following instructions are for those seeking ceremonial purification from a skin disease. Those who have been healed must be brought to the priest, who will examine them at a place outside the camp. If the priest finds that someone has been healed of a serious skin disease, he will perform a purification ceremony using 2 live birds that are ceremonial clean, a stick of cedar, some scarlet yarn, and a hyssop branch. The priest will order that the one bird be slaughtered over a clay pot filled with fresh water. He will take the live bird, the cedar stick, and scarlet yarn, and the hyssop branch, and dip them into the blood of the bird that was slaughtered over the fresh water. The priest will then sprinkle the blood, of the dead bird 7 times on the person being purified of the skin disease. When the priest has purified the person, he will release the live bird in the open field to fly away. And it goes on from there. And I wanted to read that to you to give you a kind of a picture as to what this man Jesus was telling him to do. He was telling him to go through this process. And I want you to see, we're not going to go into depth about any more about the cultural nuances of that for lack of time. But I want you to see something here. It says Jesus was moved with compassion. And so he healed this man. He healed him not just of a physical illness, but of something that this man had been experiencing for some time, and that is isolation from people. Because the way that it was supposed to be done in this culture is he needed to go be examined by a priest according to the law of Moses and be declared clean. But there had to be the priest had to see with his own eyes, right, that this man was actually clean for him in order for this man to go home to be with his family again. Can you see the compassion of Jesus that goes far beyond just healing the man's physical illness to bringing him back into fellowship where he had been outside the camp and ostracized because of this illness? It says, if you read in Leviticus additional, it says that anyone with leprosy was to sit at the gate or the door of the temple even. It was supposed to be a public testimony. Okay, it was a testimony of that person being healed, being cleansed, okay? Now, notice what Jesus didn't do. Jesus did not promote the testimony that just happened. He simply asked the man to do what the law of Moses required so that he could get back into fellowship. He says he gave him a stern warning to not tell anyone. If you guys have been here and been paying attention in Mark already, we've not even finished one chapter. We've already seen Jesus, I think, at least 2 times leave at the moment of popularity and depart to minister to one person. How many of you have ever been asked, how many people go to your church? Well, as someone recounted to me that a pastor once said to her, we're not in the book of Numbers, we're in the book of Acts.
Right. Amen.
Religion focuses on numbers, Jesus focuses on people. Anytime a pastor, a teacher, an apostle, a prophet, or an evangelist of any church leader is sure to let everyone know the testimony of what they have done, how many people they've prayed for, how many people have attended their church or their ministry or like their ministry, that is an earmark of the opposite of Jesus. That is a self-promoter, not a kingdom promoter. Jesus is not paying attention to numbers here. He's paying attention to a person. Right. He said, don't tell anyone. He sternly warned him. Is there possibly a culture clash with how Jesus operates and how the American church operates? If you hear church leaders that hold any title, which Jesus said not to have a title in the church, but that aside, Matthew 23, promote numbers and what they have done and how many this or that. It is self-promotion born out of, I believe, in most cases, divination and insecurity. A lack of understanding of how much the Father loves them and approves of them. They don't need the approval of others. Such people, though, sadly, are more interested in their popularity than the people that they are called to minister to. And that's how it manifests. They give you bullet lists of how many people they've ministered to. And hide their puffery under a label of testimony. This is not how Jesus ever operated. He ran from potential popularity. Every time. His fame spread, nevertheless, but that's not what he sought. Who was the original self-promoter? Satan. I will be like God. I will promote myself. Where did that get him? When anyone behaves like that, they are behaving like the father of lights, the father of lies, and an angel of light. Prideful versus humble. Proverbs chapter 27, verse 2. Let another praise you and not your own mouth, a stranger and not your own lips. Jesus did not promote himself. He promoted the Father.
Yes, he did.
And loved people. I really believe that prophetically God is calling people in this room, people listening later, people in this city, people that we know who feel unnoticed. The Father right now is calling Satanists, witches, homeless people, people bound by religion and they don't know it. The Father is calling those who have felt alone among the religion of man. He is calling those who have felt alone away from everyone. He is calling the people who we least likely would touch or notice. God is touching and transforming outcasts into overcomers.
That's right.
He is turning the lonely into leaders. He is turning misfits into ministers. And he is touching the untouchable. And you know what that means for us when he's touching the untouchable? That means he is calling us as well to touch the untouchable.
That's right.
What he does is what we do.
Amen.
We partner with him in what is in his heart for these days. The outcasts always felt comfortable around Jesus. It was the religious folk that felt uncomfortable around him.
Right.
Why? Not because he wasn't calling them as well, but because they didn't want him.
Right.
The problem is those who have been alone and in a dark cave have been convinced by the enemy that they are damaged goods. And the Father says, no, no, no. I am making you good. I am making you into my image. I meet people who haven't spent much time around religion, and they have been rebellious to religion, but they have hearts that are tender toward Jesus. I continually meet people that are more like Jesus, that are more like the Father than they even know. But they have been told by the enemy that they are outcasts and they are not welcomed. It says, but the man went and spread the word, proclaiming to everyone what had happened. As a result, large crowds soon surrounded Jesus, and he couldn't publicly enter a town anywhere. He had to stay out in the secluded places, but people from everywhere kept coming to him. People from everywhere are coming to the presence of God.
Yeah.
They are. They don't even know what they're coming to, but they're being drawn, and they are open your eyes to see. They are the people who you would least likely expect for the Father to be calling.